And I think the development of full artificial intelligence would spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
With the rockets or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. They were too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 6, 3, 2, 9, 7.
Media doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to Troubled Minds Radio. I am your host, Michael Strange. I am here with your co-host, Frank Pierce. And we would like to say hello to all of you who might also have troubled minds. We are recording this show live. 702-957-1037 is the number to call if you'd like to be part of the show. You can click the link in the Facebook stream to get on Discord. There's another way. They both work, and we appreciate your input. So, yeah, if you guys want to be part, you guys want to talk to Frank and Mike, you guys want to talk about crazy stuff, we want to hear it. We'd love to hear it. That's why we do this. But alright, so aside from recording live, and you guys know where to reach us, for those of you who are new, we started this show because we don't really dig how government, academia, major corporations, you know, those guys, the guys who tell us what to think, those guys, we just don't like how they're the arbiters of truth in the modern age. There's so many intelligent, unique individuals, and I'm talking about you. If you're out there listening, if you're out there watching, I'm talking about you, because just the fact that you are into the same type of questions, I can tell you're smart folks. But smart folks like yourselves have constant access to audio, video, other technologies, and why not? Like, why can't we be part of the equation, part of the questions, and part of the answer process? Makes a lot of sense to us anyway. So we think that together as a group, we should be able to contribute to a more actual truth, and that's why we made this show. We think that it's important to kind of go through some of those things, ask some of those questions, and ask them together as a group, and kind of go through some of the mythologies, some of the some of the stuff that's in the zeitgeist out there that you hear about. Is it true? Is it not true? Is it fake? Is it bogus? Is it this? Is it that? Those questions. Those are good questions. I think if you're not asking questions, then you just aren't doing it right. So there you go. All right. So Yeah, I mean, we got a lot to get into, so I'll cut it short and get right to the fun part. So one more time, if you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. We're talking about Antarctica tonight. Pyramids, aliens, anomalous weirdness, all kinds of crazy stuff. Shout out to Ian. Shout out to Mo. Thanks for showing up, guys. And Ian gets first. But, yeah, in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, your co-host, Frank Pierce.
Hey, I'm Frank Pierce. And yeah, this show is about us working together to ask questions, to learn about the world around us, to try to avoid some of that political bickering and fighting, and start figuring out what's really going on. Even though we fall subject to it ourselves quite often, you know, we think in terms of red versus blue, there's a lot of stuff going on out there that the media doesn't cover, that the media kind of snuffs, like, pulls away their head from, doesn't look at. And that's what we're into. We're into looking at some of these strains, trying to make common sense out of them, trying to look through them, dig up any research we can find, and answer the question if these things are real. Like, I always remember going back to that crop circle show, being astonished that there are groups of people out there who actually take samples from crop circles and do real scientific analysis on it. And that's nothing the mainstream media would ever tell you. So that's the kind of stuff we're into, is looking for a bunch of different sources and trying to figure out what's really going on in the world. Even today, we have a good example of a very strange phenomena that came out of Antarctica, but people are so involved in the political bickering back and forth that they ignored the phenomena itself and started throwing insults left and right and accusing each other of all sorts of things. And that's what we want to avoid here. So that's what we do. That's a show. We talk about crazy stuff, and hopefully we don't sound crazy while doing it. So let's get into it.
And if we do, so be it. So be it. All right. Ian says, "Aye." Josh, thumbs up. Thanks for showing up, guys. If you guys got comments, drop them in there. We'll read them if we can, if we have time. I'll try and get to all of them. If you're watching on YouTube, same thing. Drop comments in there. Frank's watching that. So if you want Frank to read your comment, go to YouTube, type it in there, and keep him on his toes. So, yeah, all right. Before we usually get into the topic, we'll do some news, just because the nature of live streams, you know, people give people time to show up and talk about a few different things here, and then we get into it. So let's do news first. So what do you got? What do you got, Frank? You want to start with one?
Yeah, let's go into this one here. I found this quite interesting. There might be constitutional limits to the Space Force. So we've been talking about this Space Force idea, bantying back and forth about it for probably a month now on our shows. And quite frankly, we think it's a good idea. But here we go. Here's Drew Millard saying that there's constitutional limits to this idea of the Space Force. So basically, he goes on to say here that the president can control land and sea operations, but many generations down the line, when we actually have people in space, on the moon, on Mars, you know, mining asteroids, that this idea of the Space Force is not actually supported by the Constitution, that we can't do it because of this. So what does he say here? Suppose the Space Force is projecting force into deeper space, either for the purpose of fighting hypothetical aliens or protecting distant colonization. One might plausibly argue that this mission is sufficiently distinct from the mission encompassed by the conventional meaning of the Army and Navy in 1788. So this idiot, I don't know what else to call him here, is basically saying that because the Constitution limits us to operating on land and air, and that's it, and sea, I guess, that we can't go out into space. So there we go. Let's pack the whole thing up. Let's just sit on the planet for the rest of our lives and never do anything about it. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic. It's, you know, though, I have to say, if you guys are watching the stream, I'll describe it here. The article has a nice picture on top that says Space Force. It has Captain Kirk looking super sexy with his hair disheveled. Nice black and white photo, and he's holding those little, what are they, the tribbles? What are they called?
Yeah, tribbles, I believe.
Tribbles, yeah, a little bunch. So he's like sitting in like a room full of the tribbles. Super sexy, man. Yeah, Captain Kirk is smoking hot. But yeah, yeah, this is funny to me because the Constitution is one of those things that people use. They ask questions or they use it to their advantage when it is to their advantage ideologically, right? But when it's not, then they do whatever they can to subvert the Constitution. So it's like just this premise entirely is LOL to me, because like I don't know much about Drew Millard, but the guy that wrote this, but you would think that, at least I would think, being jaded, and well, okay, I'm worse than that, but we'll leave it at that. But using the Constitution as a signpost for smearing this, or saying this can't be done, or whatever, it's silly. It's silly to me. It's silly. Like this may be one of those small instances where the Constitution might need a tiny amendment. You know what I mean? Like, come on, really, people, really?
Yeah, I've noticed what you just said there is that they'll use it to their advantage whenever they want. If they want to take away the guns or restrict our freedoms, well, they'll pass the Patriot Act. They'll restrict bump stocks and whatever else, and they're perfectly happy doing that. But now we want to go to space. The Constitution is an ironclad document that we cannot violate. So again, this kind of argument, I don't know why people are arguing against it. Like, it's only a good thing. It can only be a good thing to have a space force. There's no reason not to have it. And this kind of pedantic argument, it really makes me upset. Makes me angry.
I agree. It's just another flip-flopping article where they take every angle to attack the commander-in-chief. So doesn't really surprise me. A couple more shout-outs. Todd, what's up? Thanks for showing up. Ian says, in my opinion, the Space Force is going to be awesome and will be very helpful when we need to move to another planet. Exactly, and that's what we're talking about. We think it's a positive thing, even if we stated previously that whatever it takes to get there, if you have to say it's national security, if you have to say it's aliens, I don't care what you have to say. Let's just get there. Let's make it happen. Let's get the funding kicked in. Let's stop sending money to third world countries that are, these governments are butchering their people on our dime. Like, let's just stop. Let's stop this madness and start doing something for humanity as a whole, instead of the same status quo, the same BS that we're doing over and over and over. So yeah, and then Mo says Kirk was the real MVP. Aha. I agree. You got to admit, man, that picture's amazing. William Shatner. Okay, all right. So that's anything else on the Space Force, Frank?
No, let's keep going.
Okay, keep on trucking. Jack shows up. What's up, buddy? Ernie's here. Thanks for coming, guys. All right, so next one. I kind of like this one. I want to read some of this. So more outer space. This one's about Mike Pence. So this was reported by theatlantic.com in their science section, whatever that means. And so the headline here is Mike Pence's Outer Space Gospel. And the vice president's speeches about space sometimes sound like sermons. They draw on a long tradition of evangelical thinking about cosmic exploration. And to me, it's a good speech, right? I mean,
let me jump in there real quick to say that picture on this article is absolutely amazing. Look at that picture. Like, I'd listen to that guy no matter what he's telling me.
Yeah, right. It's almost like he's in the Star Wars and the Millennium Falcon. Like, as it's flying through hyperspace, he's facing the back of the ship and giving his speech there. But so I mean, to me, that's it's good speaking. Like if Martin Luther King or a Barack Obama, if they came through and did some leaned on some evangelical thinking about the way they delivered their speeches or their cadence or the pauses or what have you, it's like celebrated. But I don't know. I have a feeling this is going to be a smear. So I just wanted to read some of these. So okay, so there was speaking of the evangelical style. It goes back to Lyndon B. Johnson in 1967, 2 years before the country followed through on the Man on the Moon, okay, which was 1969, of course, and that was when Neil Armstrong and crew actually stepped foot on the moon, the official story. What's up, Paul? Shout out, buddy. And Todd says, praise God, now give us your cash. Amen, buddy. Do you get 2 amens for that one? Amen. Do you get 3 amens for that one? All right, so here's Lyndon B. Johnson, 1967, 2 years before we actually went to the moon. Quote, "We are all the descendants of those voyagers who found and settled the New World. Today, we stand here at the gateway to another and a more glorious New World. We must be the space pioneers who lead the way to the stars." Now, come on. After that, you can make fun of anything that Mike Pence says? Come on. Come on, guys. Like, if it's a
I
politician,
notice all
reading
these
stuff.
are Republicans, are they not? So yeah, it does kind of seem like a smear piece that they're only looking at Republicans here.
Yeah, of course. I mean, pretty much it's almost impossible to pull up something that's even neutral or favorable at this point. But whatever. I thought these little quotes were funny. Okay, so in 1989, George H.W. Bush, that would be George Bush Sr., he says, why the moon? Why Mars? Because it is humanity's destiny to strive, to seek, to find. And because it is America's destiny to lead. From the voyages of Columbus to the Oregon Trail, to the journey to the moon itself, history proves that we have never lost by pressing the limits of our frontiers. And just so you guys know, I'm just using this as a primer to see if I can actually run for president in the near future. But anyway, so reading these speeches, having a good time. A couple more comments here. Ernie, thanks for showing up. He says, did they step on the moon? I see what you did there. Yeah, go check out our moon episode. We talked a little bit about that. But I think we're going to go there. Maybe we're going to go there, right, Frank? Pretty soon?
Yeah, for sure. I think we have to. China's going there, so we definitely have to go there.
Well, I mean, us and the show. We're going to maybe do something.
Oh, yeah, another moon episode? For sure. Yeah, we definitely have to do that. There's just so much to.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Mark, thanks for showing up. He says, howdy doody. Okay, so one more, and then we'll move on from this. I just wanted to kind of read through some of this because it's cool how you go through the history of what these presidents have said, and you can kind of compare it, and notice that things kind of never change. It's like the same stuff just kind of chewed up and spit out in a new decade. But anyway, okay. And George W. Bush, our favorite guy who can't read, W, in 2004, quote, 2 centuries ago, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark left St. Louis to explore the new lands acquired in the Louisiana Purchase. They made it, that journey in the spirit of discovery, to learn the potential of a vast new territory and to chart a way for others to follow. America has ventured forth into space for the same reasons. Okay, that was probably terrible. W. Bush, but you get the point, right? It's like the same stuff. It's the same hype, rhetoric, just spewed all over again. So then they go into all this stuff that Mike Pence says, which we'll just skip because I thought the other stuff was a lot more fun. But anything there, Frank, before we move on?
Yeah, it is. I think that these speeches are great if we actually follow through on them. Like, I noticed they say a lot of this stuff, let's go to space, let's go to the moon, and then we never do. But they oftentimes don't have, or they never have speeches about blowing up Muslims and villages and, all over the world, right? There's no grand sermons about that, yet we're doing that all the time. So I wouldn't put too much stock in what these guys say. It's actions that speak louder than words.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was fun to read some of the old quotes here, so that's why I pulled the article. Okay, so, all right, what do you got next?
Yeah, so this is what I was referencing a minute ago, is more details on China sending its probe to the far side of the moon. So first one ever. So they're sending this probe up, the Chang 4, and it'll be launching late this year and attempting the landing. Now, there's some more details in here which I found interesting, is that apparently, how do you communicate with the probe on the other side of the moon? Because the moon is tidally locked, so we only see the one face of it. Any kind of radio signals from the surface of the Earth will only, it won't be able to go around, control things on the moon on the other side. So apparently, and I didn't know this, is they have a relay satellite in place already around the moon. So thank you, mainstream media, for telling me that. They have the Chikao, okay, I'm not even going to attempt to say that, but basically they have a relay satellite, orbiting the moon right now, so they can shoot signals at this satellite, and it's going to relay them to this rover landing on the other side of the moon. And that way they'll be able to send back pictures and do sample analysis and all this kind of stuff. And it looks like, they got a bunch of stuff, bunch of science equipment and everything on this already, so it's going to be exciting to see what they release. It's also going to be kind of terrifying, right? Because China's known for their censorship, right? What was it? There was that famous picture of Barack Obama and the current chairman of China. I'm kind of forgetting his name. And a bunch of people compared that to Winnie the Pooh and his tiger friend walking along. And what did China do? They banned Winnie the Pooh in China, right? They kind of banned the meme. So you can't post images of Winnie the Pooh in China, believe it or not. So if they're going to ban such simple things like that, I wonder how much they're going to censor the data that comes back from the other side. Get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I mean they censor everything over there. It's I wonder what kind of worldview they've shaped for their citizens based on all that censorship. It's probably grotesque. It's probably in line with like North Korea, like some of that stuff. They don't even let them like view regular history. It's insane. Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know, but they actually have the Great Firewall of China. So if you're in China, you can't connect to Google, you can't connect to YouTube, you can't connect to Amazon. All that stuff is firewalled off. You can only connect to China government-approved websites. So that's a real thing. So people living in China, you know, they often have to VPN out around that firewall so they can access these things. So the censorship there is real. It's horrible. They have that whole social credit score system going on right now. That's terrifying too. But yeah, I wonder if they do find crazy stuff on the other side of the moon, if they're going to release that to the public. I kind of doubt it. I really doubt it. So we need to get up there too with our own rovers on the other side of the moon.
Yeah, find out what's actually happening. And at least, you know, even though our transparency is shrinking, at least there's some left for the time being. A couple more comments. Travis shows up, says, hey guys, what's up? Travis, thanks for showing up, buddy. Mark says, hey everyone, let's always share and get the views up. Thank you. We appreciate that. And Mo agrees. Yes, let's get the sharing train on. The more people, the better, guys. If we want this to blow up, you know, that's how it works. We get to, you guys dig it, you dig it. We make good shows. We team up. Everybody has a good time. Good stuff. Thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. Okay, so all right. So China, Far Side of the Moon, The Dark Side of the Moon, a famous Pink Floyd album. Anybody remembers that? Pretty good stuff. What up, Kelly? Kelly Shono says, good evening all. What's up, Mike and Frank? You know, doing what we do. Okay, in the middle of the news. So, all right, so China, Dark Side of the Moon. Anything else there, Frank?
No, let's keep going.
All right, let's go. Okay, so I got one here. So this is reported by the express.co.uk, not a tabloid as far as I can tell. No Kardashians on the right. It's past the Kardashian test, so we're good, I think. But the headline here says, NASA moon landing. NASA chief pledges lots of humans in space in near future. How's that sound? How does that sound? That sounds pretty good to me. That sounds pretty damn good to me. Let's get there. You know, there's so much. You know, we got some. You know, we're always on Earth. We're on the precipice of some kind of disaster, whether it's natural, whether it's nukes, whether it's war, whether it's this, whether it's that. You know, whether it's some kind of volcanic eruption. I mean, we're kind of always on the edge of like extinction. You know, like we don't know. It could be 100,000 years, or it could be tomorrow. So, the sooner we get off this damn rock, the sooner we have a chance for our species to thrive, long term. Actually, long term. So, I think that's one of the reasons why we're talking about this, why we always talk about this, and why we think it's important. If you know, we can't fund this because we're bickering red team, blue team, we're wasting everybody's time. And we may as well just hit the button right now. You know what I'm saying? You get my feeling there, Frank?
Yeah, definitely. Now, here's a question for you. I'm reading through this article here. He says, we've got a gap about of 80 years in our ability to fly to space since like the last missions. Then he says here, the NASA chief does not want another gap like that to occur once the International Space Station is retired. Well, that's news to me. When are they retiring the International Space Station? Like, we're following this stuff. I didn't see anything about that.
I can explain. So the International Space Station it's in orbit, okay? And things, when they go into orbit, it's not perpetual. It's what's called a decaying orbit. And so it eventually will fall to Earth. You can't keep anything up there indefinitely, and that's why things actually end up splashing in the ocean after time. You know, you get some of the old satellites that have been up since like the 70s. They're starting to hit the waters now. So
I thought they could boost it back up, though, like attach some stuff to it and move it kind of back up.
Not so sure. I think it might be too heavy. I don't know. We could look into that in the future, but that's my understanding is it can't stay up perpetually, and eventually it will be retired and come splashing back down to Earth. So, yeah, I think it's like a it was a planned thing. When they sent it up, they knew that was probably going to happen. I guess unless there's some technology from now to then that can stop it. But yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's the reason for more of this moon-based talk is we know we have to be up there somehow. We know this space station is coming down. You're right, maybe it's too heavy, maybe they've added too much stuff to it in the meantime. But we know that we have to be up there, so moon base. Instead of space station, we get a moon base. And I'm okay with that.
There you go. Well, the moon's not going to crash into us anytime soon, so that's it seems a little more, let's say, economically feasible. A couple more shout-outs. Mo says, that's why we need a Space Force. We have the right to know. There should be no censorship when it comes to people on the planet that people need to know, and the U.S. needs to get on it. Damn straight. Mo's speaking our language. Thanks, Mo. Christopher, thanks for showing up, man. Says, anybody thinks we have the entire outer space to ourselves is ignorant and needs to check their pulse. I just wish we had better footage of extraterrestrial encounters. I enjoy talking about this kind of stuff. You're in the right place, buddy. So do we. Fred, showing up. What's up, Fred? He says, what's up, fellas? Thanks for coming, buddy. Todd, aliens. Hell yeah, buddy. And then Kelly, I say, how about the Pentagon funds that $22 trillion with a T before we even consider a Space Force? Yeah, well, okay, I think you mean that that's how much we're spending on Lord knows what, like the black budget stuff. That I think that's probably what you mean. 22 trillion.
Yeah, all that money went missing. So maybe we have a base on the moon right now. We just don't know about it, right?
Yeah.
Who knows what they're spending that money on?
That's right. That was a recent report. I saw that on RT. They were talking about the 22 trillion missing from the Pentagon funds. Right. Exactly.
Whoa. You saw that on RT?
I did.
Are you a Russian agent?
I'm a Russian agent. You got me. If I disappear midstream, guys, you know what happened. Somebody kicked in the door, they dragged me away, and I'm in prison for being a Russian agent. Okay, so anyway, moving along. What's up, Hector? Thanks for showing up. 22 million missing. We don't dig that. We're not into that. Why don't we spend money on this stuff instead? So, let's put humans in space. There we go. I think that's the crux of this argument. I think we all mostly agree. Let's do this. Let's get this done. Okay. And then Todd says, how can money that doesn't exist go missing? LOL. Okay.
That's a good point. That is a very good point.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show by itself. Okay, good point though. All right. What else you got there, Frank?
Okay, talking about excuse me one sec. Caught me in the middle of a sip. Talking about going to the moon. Here's 5 reasons, well thought out reasons, why we should skip Mars and focus on the moon. And I think these are all things we've talked about in the last month or so that's pretty cool. First reason, skipping Mars, going to the moon instead. First reason, staging post in space. So, again, what we're talking about, moon gravity is so low, we can lift stuff off there with hardly any energy at all compared to Earth. So if we move stuff to the moon, we start mining water, mining rock, we can pull it up off the moon into space pretty easy with low fuel cost. So get that staging post in space. Second reason, to make fuel. So apparently there's helium-3 on the moon, which we can use in fusion reactors, though I don't think they've quite mastered that technology yet. There's all that tokamak stuff, but that'll be on their show. And of course water on the moon, right? So you can create fuel from water for sure, ship it up into space, boom, that's how you prepare to go to Mars. Third reason, rock. So there's a lot of geological studies and things that could be done, and rock for building, again, on the moon. All the things we talked about. Fourth reason, observing the universe. So stop trying to put all these telescopes in space, just put them on the moon, right? There's no atmosphere on the moon. So if we put telescope installations there, they're stabilized, they're steady, the moon's not rotating. We can look at anything with a lot better resolution because it's not kind of floating around space getting hit by dust and crap like that. So a great place to put a telescope. And fifth reason, again, humans in space. So once we get people on the moon, we can build them spaces to live. We have water up there. We have sunlight where we can grow plants and whatnot. But all kind of things we talked about. So this, I thought, was a pretty good article detailing the reasons why going to Mars first is really a waste of time. And we should be focusing on settling the moon and then using that as a launching pad to go everywhere else.
Exactly. This is more common sense stuff, right? I just don't understand why NASA and all these guys say Mars, 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 Mars. It's like marketing. It's like knowing they'll never fund it. We'll never actually get there. Or maybe they're biding time and letting Elon Musk do the heavy lifting. That could be. Or like, I think we talked about that before. Yeah, maybe. But obviously, I mean, if you get to the moon and you get a settlement and you can launch off the moon, you're saving tons of fuel right there. The resources saved are going to be incredible. You get things up there in pieces, you build them there, and then you launch them from the moon. The gravity is much lighter than the Earth. It's just it just doesn't make sense. Like, we can't skip it. We absolutely can't skip it. And I think China's pushing the action here. I think by them going to the dark side of the moon, it's going to make us get back up there soon. So at least we can thank China for that. And the rubber dog shit from Hong Kong, right? And all the other great things they send us. But okay, so that was a Top Gun reference in case you guys missed it. Okay, all right. So then last one here, we got so the NASA asteroid Bennu. They sent a satellite out there to kind of get images of this thing, and then maybe take a sample off the asteroid itself. The asteroid name is Bennu, Bennu, and the entire goal here is to get photographs and then be able to literally somehow land on this thing or fly close enough. Let's see, how is this? I don't know exactly, but they're going to get some kind of. Here's the first image. So the first image is from millions of miles away yet, but they've spotted a nice huge chunk of something. So as they get closer, we'll get better images. But yeah, that's the goal of this. The name of the asteroid hunting satellite is OSIRIS-REx. It's a spacecraft that is going to go apparently take a sample from this asteroid and return to Earth. So, yeah. So I guess that's there's SpaceX for you, right? In action. Like, this is the thing. If we can actually image these things, find a good place to land, get up there, and then start mining these things, maybe move them closer to Earth, get them in some kind of near orbit to maybe the moon, let's say, because we have a base there. Right, like suddenly the resource thing becomes non let's see, what would you say, not a problem. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to lift off enough fuel from Earth to then travel to an asteroid to then have enough fuel to redirect that asteroid and slow it down, right? You just can't fit enough fuel on a rocket to do that. But you could fit enough fuel on a rocket lifting off the moon to do that, because it's so much easier to get off the moon than it is Earth, right? So you could launch a rocket from the moon. It's got massive fuel tanks. It kind of anchors itself to these asteroids and tries to redirect them, put them somewhere we can mine them to pieces. Yeah, so that's the way to go. That's the way it seems that we have to look at this kind of stuff.
I agree. We got a small avalanche of comments here. Kelly says that's why we should have went with the von Braun space station. That could make its own gravity. And that means that it stays up perpetually, is what you're saying? Or does that mean that there's gravity inside the space station, like the Death Star or something? Maybe you could clarify. Todd says the moon is already settled and not by us. That's why we won't go back. I've heard that. Kelly says there's someone that don't want humans on the moon. Also, I've heard that. And then maybe because they told us to stay off the moon, says Scotty. What's up, Scotty? Thanks for showing up. Kelly says hello. Todd again says hello back. And yeah, so we have heard that. We talked about that in the moon episode. That people actually that we haven't gone back because we were told not to come back, right, by extraterrestrials. Remember that, Frank? Yeah.
Yeah. So if this China rover explodes in some mysterious circumstance, well, maybe we'll know why, right?
Yeah, because they're hiding on the dark side of the moon, obviously. I mean, if you get over there and there's extraterrestrials, right, where would they likely be? I would think probably the dark side where we can't see them. But yeah. Uh-oh. We gotta fight. There's 2 Kellys in the chat. There's too many Kellys. No. We have room for tons of Kellys. You guys are fine. Okay, so on to the topic, man. What do we got? How are we doing this, Frank? You want to go first, you said?
Yeah, let's go into... You want me to do my crazy one first, and we'll get it out of the way?
Yeah, let's do the crazy one.
Okay, so we're doing Antarctica. All the crazy stuff from Antarctica. And there's a ton of it. We're only going to scratch the surface here, but it's definitely a continent filled with mystery and wonder, depending how you look at it. So this one's kind of a tangentially related to Antarctica. It's kind of weird, though. So I found this odd story circulating around the internet on Media Matters, of all places. Now, Media Matters is, they call it a nonprofit organization with the goal of, correcting journalism and making sure everything's correct and all this, but really it's a left-wing propaganda outlet. But we're going to try to keep this show non-political, so there we go. Anyway, this Media Matters story was a hit piece against InfoWars. So they highlight a clip of this InfoWars host, and he's talking about something related to Antarctica that seemed pretty crazy. So if you want to pull up that Media Matters link and play first couple minutes of it, that'll be a good introduction.
You got it. Here we go. One more time, guys. We're live. If you want to call and be part of the show, it's 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link. We'll put you on. You can talk to Frank and Mike about all this cool stuff. Here we go. Action.
Call me crazy, call me a conspiracy theorist. I'm going to show you right now, from August 9th, an energy wave, or whatever you want to call it, being fired out of Antarctica, split two hurricanes that were forming in the Pacific Ocean about to hit Hawaii. Guys, go ahead and roll that B-roll. So here's the B-roll. Now watch what comes out of Antarctica here as two hurricanes are forming in Hawaii. Boom. An energy beam. See if you guys can just pause it on that still frame so that Professor, boom, right there. See if you guys can, right there. There's the still frame right there. What is that coming out of Antarctica, splits two hurricanes, and you can clearly tell once that wave or whatever it is dissipates, so do the hurricanes. Let's play that one more time so the audience can see it.
Okay,
So
that's
again,
enough
this
of
is
that.
August 9th,
Cut that now.
two hurricanes.
Okay, so pull up the time-lapse image that I have in there, and I'll keep talking about this. But basically, what happened here is that Media Matters clipped this out, right? And they want to make InfoWars seem crazy, seem stupid, so they put that up there, and everyone's sharing that link around, kind of laughing at InfoWars. Oh, they're so crazy. Now, I started reading the comments on the Media Matters article, and I was quite surprised by something, is that none of the people in the article were attempting to figure out what this was, whether it's a satellite glitch, it is some kind of phenomena. They were just arguing about conservatives being stupid. So here's a couple of funny quotes from those comments. "The deep state split my hurricane," said one commenter. "Global warming isn't real. The Democrats have a super secret weather machine." There's another absolutely fabulous comment. "Wow, if it weren't for InfoWars, we'd never know about the technology to split hurricanes in two, though it was just one hurricane. John Kerry is involved with magic rays from Antarctica. I'm telling everyone I know." Anyway, basically people making fun of this whole concept. However, that does not change the fact that there's definitely something strange going on here. So did you pull that time lapse up? Can you see that beam of energy?
Yes. So it's been playing while you were speaking here. So if you guys look on the left side, like top left, you have Hawaii. This red stuff is going to be your weather patterns and the hurricanes. You see them spinning up there right next to it, and there's some kind of beam that shoots out that actually breaks up the weather pattern. It's continuing to play here, so if you want to keep going there, but it's been rolling. So if you look down, it's like at the bottom tip of South America is where it looks like it's shooting from, and it ends up changing the weather patterns in its beam here. If you can see, it's almost immediate too. So yeah. Carry on.
So this is from the Mimic satellite. So the Mimic TPW is a satellite that used data blending techniques to combine disparate swaths of microwave observations from polar orbiting satellites in order to create a near seamless animation of advecting radiance features. So I guess energy and clouds, essentially. It builds off the methods used in Mimic TC, which depicts microwave imagery of tropical cyclones in regular time. So basically, a couple of satellites, they pool their data together, they measure microwave radiation in clouds, and they can use that to see hurricanes and all sorts of things. So it's good for predicting the weather. Anyway, there's this weird beam that keeps shooting out Antarctica. So I think we've seen that a couple of times. So pull up the first image, it's just called first, and I kind of froze that in place so we can really see what we're talking about here. But basically, let me pull it up myself here. So we have, the map. We see some hurricanes in the near over Hawaii. It's kind of they're curling up, and then we see this what looks like a beam of energy that shoots out over the tip of South America, off towards Hawaii into the dense clouds there. Right. So there's something going on here. It's not. It might be a glitch. It might be something. But I wanted to really look into this and see if we can figure out what it is, what it could be. So the first thing I notice about this is that those waves are even. Now, if you have a sound wave or a frequency or a vibration in air, what you'll often see is, or any kind of wave, like a light wave or an EM wave of all sorts, those wave fronts are also evenly spaced. So people are calling this an energy beam, and that kind of brings to mind the idea of a laser beam or something else. But really, it looks like some kind of wave, like a sound wave or an energy wave of some kind. So pull up the second image there, and we can really see that. I did my amateur Photoshop here, but basically you can see those things are evenly spaced, right? So each of those kind of areas of high density microwave radiation, which is what the satellite's measuring, are evenly spaced across the entire thing. So it's not a beam of some kind. It looks like an energy wave. Does my explanation make sense so far?
Makes sense to me. I'm following you. I don't think I have the second
exactly.
image. I have a third. I'm on the third with the 777 kilometers. So
okay, so we'll just skip to that. Anyway, yeah. So then I thought, okay, well, what's the distance we're talking about here? So these waves are kind of the same distance from each other. So I did a little back of the napkin math here, and we can use the longitude and latitude to determine where these beams or these waves are. And apparently they're 777 kilometers long, right? Now that's important to know again because when you have a very low frequency wave of energy, the wavelength is very long, but when you have a very high frequency, it's very short. So this seems to be some kind of very low frequency wave coming from Antarctica. And the distance between wavelengths, or the wavelength, is 777 kilometers. So that's pretty interesting. And now using that distance measurement, I thought, well, now we know how fast the thing's moving, right? So pull up the next image, the fourth image. Pull it up myself here. So again, that was an animated GIF. So the ticks in the animated GIF were an hour long, and so I did again a little bit of back of the napkin math here, and it seems like that thing was moving 2 wavelengths in 1 hour. Okay, so now we're getting more information. We know that the wavelengths from this beam shot from Antarctica were 777 apart kilometers. I'm using kilometers so that it's just easier to do the math. Everything's in metric nowadays. Anyway, and we also know that it seems to go 777 times 2 kilometers per hour. So that's 1,500 about kilometers per hour, right? So we know that the wavelength is 777 kilometers. We know that it takes 1 hour. It'll travel 1,500 kilometers. Now, what could that be, right? Because we know that EM radiation, for example, moves at near the speed of light. So that's 300,000 kilometers a second. So that's obviously not this. But interestingly enough, the speed of sound in air is 343 meters per second, okay? And the speed of this thing is 1,500 kilometers per hour, which is roughly about 400 meters per second. So based on this crappy math I did here, that's pretty close, right?
That's pretty close.
400 versus 343, that's pretty close. So yeah, so apparently we could be seeing here, like everyone wanted to make fun of it and say it's nothing, but the physics lines up. It has evenly distributed wave patterns. It's moving at a speed that's similar to the speed of sound, and it's coming out of Antarctica. So can we have, what kind of sound would that be? If there was a sound that had a wavelength of 777 kilometers, what kind of sound would that be? Well, that would be infrasound. So infrasound with a very low frequency of 0.0005 hertz, so lower than you can hear. That's what this would be. So infrasound, sometimes referred to as low frequency sound, is the sound that is lower in frequency than 20 hertz, which is the normal limit of human hearing. Hearing becomes gradually less sensitive as the frequency decreases. So the study of sound waves is sometimes referred to as infrasonics, covering sounds beneath 20 hertz, down to 0.1, and rarely down to 0.0001. So the type of sound we're talking about here. And yeah, so what we're seeing, apparently, just doing this kind of back of the napkin Photoshop math here, is a sound wave coming out of Antarctica that's moving at the same speed as the speed of sound in the air, and apparently it's being used to break up hurricanes. So that's pretty interesting. Now, I wanted to see if there's any science that kind of backed this claim up. Like, okay, that's great. So it looks like a sound wave. It fits the characteristics of a sound wave. But is there any actual data out there that kind of supports this idea that, like, why would they be doing this? What's the reason?
Okay,
so
let me cut in real quick.
Link, if you will.
Let me cut in real quick.
Go ahead.
Okay, I've got a couple comments here. So, we're talking about Antarctica, guys. Todd's giving us the snooze emojis. So we're talking about Antarctica, and it looks like there's a beam that actually shot out from Antarctica, South Pole, that ended up breaking up some of these weather patterns up in Hawaii. Some of these recent hurricanes, monsoons that were about to hit and do a ton of damage, and then how suddenly it turned out that they went from like a Category 4 to like a tropical storm type thing over a day or two. And so this is what we're looking at. This is what we're talking about. So just to catch anybody up that just showed up, and also so back to Kelly says both stay up and have gravity. He's talking about the space stations we were talking about. And then he says those are not the only ones that have shot out from Antarctica. And yeah, exactly. We're going to get to some of that too. Tim says, what's up? What's up, guys? Enjoy your shows. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. Todd snoozing on us. It's all right. Todd, you fall asleep. You can watch the archive. You're a good man. And then Kelly says, could be used from another HARP. They're calling them atmospheric heaters. Look it up. Yep. And then John, what's up, John? He says 1 billion microwave watts. I'm not even sure if that's a thing. If that's a thing, you're amazing. If that's a troll, you're amazing. I love it. Okay, anyway. Go ahead, Frank. We're caught up.
Anyway, yeah, so I wanted to look for patents, and apparently there are patents out there that use sound to control weather. So if you pull that link up, let me do the same thing here. But basically there are patents out there that kind of describe the use of sound to control weather. So here's a hurricane and tornado control device. Method is disclosed for affecting the formation or direction of low atmospheric weather systems using audio generators positioned towards the weather system. Okay, so apparently this kind of thing's out there, and that gets into HARP, as one of the commenters mentioned, so controlling the weather. Anyway, I thought that was fascinating overall. I know it might be a bit snoozy, but basically looked like an energy beam shot out of Antarctica, and that's great. Could be a glitch, but when you actually measure it, it looks like it's infrasound. And more importantly, the speed at which it's moving across this satellite map is the same as the speed of sound in air. So maybe it's not a glitch, maybe it's real. Maybe there's some kind of base down in Antarctica that's shooting out sound waves to break up hurricanes, who knows? And, you know, it'd be a good place for it, right? Because you could do supercooling of superconductors that you would need to transfer enough energy to make a massive sound wave like this, right? What better place to do it than a frozen continent? Anyway, that's a little tangentially related to Antarctica, but I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and current. This is within the past week. So if you guys check this out, if you're curious, want to follow up, make sure we're not completely full of this, check it out. Go check out what happened with Hawaii. There was a Category 4 hurricane coming in, monsoon, whatever it was called, and it suddenly... they said batten down the hatches. They've had some damage there now, but it hasn't been as terrible as they expected it to be. So is it because of this maybe possibly happening? Is there some kind of weather control that's happening from Antarctica itself? I don't know. Again, questions. John says man-made weather. Yes, he agrees. It seems like, and so not only that, we've looked in some other patents to where this is a thing. It's not just a tinfoil hat thing. It's an actual thing. It's been proven as a patent to work, and all you need is the particular angles of shooting this infrasound to change the weather patterns. So, and then we covered in another show. Did we talk about this? Where when you shoot lasers at the sky, you can make rain. Did we talk about that one?
I think we did briefly. Yeah, but there's a ton of crazy stuff out there. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and it's real. This is real stuff. We're not making this up. This is not science fiction. This is real stuff. These are things that could happen, and this is completely plausible. So anyway, if you guys want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. We're talking about Antarctica and some of the weird things there, and this is one of the weird things. We got an infrasound beam shooting out that kind of broke up some weather patterns around Hawaii. But you don't think that's weird? I'd like to know the weird things that go on in your brain. Okay, so if you know where to call if you want to tell us some of those weird things. But yeah, we got tons more to get into. So how much more on this, Frank?
Well, that's it for that. So yeah, is there a base in Antarctica shooting out sound lasers? Who knows? Maybe. Apparently, the Nazis might be doing it. You never know. There's a ton of weird stories surrounding Antarctica as a continent with advanced technology and different bases and all sorts of things. But that's it for that topic.
Okay. And then do you want to get in the other one too? You said you wanted to lead into what I got.
Yeah, so, okay, yeah, let me go ahead with this next story too. So I was listening to a talk from Michael Sala, who's this exopolitics guy, and he gave a talk earlier in the year about Antarctica. So the talk was called Antarctica's Hidden History and the Evolution of Secret Space Programs. And the thing was 3 hours long. and not a lot of people have time for that. So I found it pretty interesting. I thought I'd kind of summarize it a bit. And if you want, and you like what I have to say about it, you should go check it out. So it is 3 hours long. He gives tons of evidence and good data on it, but I thought I'd summarize it really quick, do kind of a book report style on it. And this leads into some of the other stuff we're talking about. So basically, the standard mainstream narrative when it concerns Antarctica goes something like this, right? There's a large frozen continent, nothing ever was there, left unexplored until the 1900s, and then the world kind of divvied it up. Everyone claimed a slice, and now it's just a bunch of researchers down there doing climate change research and a bunch of penguins too. So that's the mainstream, the lamestream narrative for the whole thing. And Michael Sala here in this talk, he gives kind of a different approach to it, a different historical perspective on what's going on down there. And he links together a bunch of weird details, and I think it makes sense if you listen to the whole thing. So I'll try to summarize some of it. And we have a few pieces of evidence we'll pull up. But yeah, I encourage you to go listen to that talk again. So we'll link it in the show notes on the website. But basically, yeah, it's a great talk. So what does he go into first? Well, the first thing he starts talking about is the CIA remote viewing experiments way back in the 1960s. So I think we have the link there if you can pull it up and go to the very bottom of it. Basically, it's May 22nd, 1984, the Mars exploration remote viewing experiments from the CIA. And so basically they got this remote viewer who could kind of astrally project their mind and look at different places through different times. And they asked them a bunch of questions about Mars. Or actually, let me take a step back. They told them a bunch of coordinates, like different longitude and latitude, but they didn't tell them what planet those coordinates referred to. And so when this remote viewer started looking at these coordinates, they were actually looking on Mars, even though they didn't realize it, or something like that. But apparently, this was pretty interesting because this remote viewer catches the end of a cataclysm on Mars and Martians fleeing to go somewhere. So let me just read a bit of this. You can go read it yourself, and again, we'll have it on the website. But let me start here. Okay, all I get is that they must just wait. They don't know who I am, think he perceives I'm a hallucination or something. So they're referring to the aliens seeing the remote viewer. Then the guy says, okay, when the others left, these people are waiting. When the others left, how did they go? So the remote viewer says, got an impression of, don't know what the hell it is. It looks like the inside of a larger boat, very rounded, walls and shiny metal. And then the guy says, go along with them on their journey and find out where it is they go. So this remote viewer says, impression of a really crazy place with volcanoes and gas pockets and strange plants. Very volatile place. It's very much like going from the frying pan into the fire. Difference is there seems to be a lot of vegetation where the other place did not have it, and different kinds of storms. So basically this remote viewer is kind of describing the Martians fleeing Mars, getting into a shiny thing that looks like the inside of a boat, and then going to a place where there's volcanoes and gas pockets and strange plants. And so what people have taken this to mean is that they've fled Mars because of due to some cataclysm or whatnot, and way back in time, and now they're going to Antarctica. So that's a theory anyway. But basically, let's look for some corroborating evidence into that idea. So I think we have a news story here. 91 volcanoes discovered under Antarctic ice. Basically, Antarctica, like 15,000 years ago, was highly volcanic active. So there was a bunch of volcanoes there, and it kind of matches what that remote viewer said. So that's kind of supporting the evidence of it. And apparently there was a lot less ice during that time too, because of all this volcanic activity. So in this article they say, we were amazed, we did not expected to find anything like that number, referring to the number of volcanoes in Antarctica. They've almost trebled the number of volcanoes known to exist in West Antarctica. So 91 volcanoes. Kind of matches that remote viewer's impression of what was going on there. Now, anyway, so the story goes, these guys fled to Mars and they settle in Antarctica. And according to Corey Goode and some other whistleblowers, they say the same thing. And I know we covered Randy Kramer in the Marine on Mars show, but we'll have to go back and look more into Corey Goode and more of this secret space program stuff. But basically, Corey Goode and other whistleblowers says that 3 large motherships crashed in Antarctica. So, and again, Antarctica is a huge continent. I don't think a lot of people realize that looking at a map, but it's twice the size of Australia. Massive, absolutely massive. So Pete Peterson, another kind of one of these whistleblowers, says that these ships came from Mars, crash landed in Antarctica, and then when they were there, they formed this civilization. So this new civilization of aliens living there. Now, why would they choose to settle in Antarctica? Well, was it freezing cold? Apparently it wasn't. So we have a couple of different points to that, but the idea was that way back in time, for whatever reason, maybe a pole shift, maybe shifting of the continents, maybe whatever else, Antarctica was not covered in ice. So I think we have another news story here, if you can pull that up too. Let me do the same.
Quick time
Ancient
out.
fossils discovered.
Quick time out.
Go ahead.
Got a ton of comments here. Okay, so going back a little ways. Fred asks, how can a sound wave show on a satellite image? Don't know. We can look into that. He says, weird. Mo wants to know, didn't the Pope go there once? I think he's talking about Antarctica. Maybe. Kelly says, love the old video, the first flight of the German saucer. And then Todd says, all the top people in the world went there. Probably Antarctica is what we're talking about. That's a topic. And I'm going back, so excuse me for being out of sync here. Christopher says, have you guys heard of Gaia? He's hesitant to pay for their Facebook site, but it looks interesting. I also love watching Ancient Aliens and Unsealed Alien Files on Netflix. Yes, I've heard of Gaia. They seem like they've got some good stuff. So I do not pay for their stuff myself, but I think it seems legit. You heard of Gaia there, Frank?
Yeah, I think I was briefly subscribed to it, and they do have some good. They put together some good stuff, so it's high production quality. I would say it's a lot better than Ancient Aliens in terms of content. Ancient Aliens is all just, here's a crazy video, here's a crazy reaction, here's a crazy video, but they actually go deep into the history of the Gaia TV thing. So, yeah, definitely worth checking out, at least temporarily.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. And then Todd says you can find anything that Gaia talks about on YouTube, and Kelly agrees, you're correct. John says HARP. Yes, exactly. That's we should do a whole program on HARP. But yeah, this is kind of what we're talking about, the weather modifications type stuff. Todd says Polar stuff on Gaia is the same old, not worth it. So yeah, maybe it depends on how far deep you're into this stuff. So we're kind of approaching this as like a kind of like a noob type thing, kind of starting out to get people into it if they aren't familiar. So we're kind of approaching it from that sense. So it just depends on how far. How much research you've done yourself, of course. And then Kelly says, I find Gaia awesome. And yes, from what I've seen, I agree. Todd says, I sub for like a month or two and then watch all the series and cut the sub. Okay. You at least you
I did the same thing. I think that's the way to go.
There you go. And then John says, not under the glacier. Under the glacier. Right, exactly. Okay. We're all caught up. So, sorry, guys, to make you wait, but go ahead, Frank. My bad.
Yeah, and then just to address that comment quickly, is sound waves would impart energy to the water molecules in the air, and the satellite would pick that up, because that's what it's picking up, is the energy of those water molecules in the hurricane system. Anyway, back to this story. So, basically, remote viewers said that Martians escaped from Mars, landed on Antarctica, and apparently, at one time, Antarctica was warm, so there was trees growing there and a bunch of stuff like that. So I don't know if you pulled that news article up, but basically there's a picture in it, 280 million-year-old fossil forest discovered in Antarctica. So there's a picture of a tree stump that's been fossilized over a long amount of time. So Antarctica wasn't always a land of ice. Millions of years ago, when the continent was still part of the southern hemisphere, or in the southern hemisphere, stuff grew there, right? So if we're talking about a long time ago, ancient Martians, apparently, according to the CIA remote viewer, escaped from Mars, landed on Antarctica, and apparently was habitable at that time. And there's a couple of more other things to do that, to kind of back that up, is these ancient maps. So there's the Piri-Reis map, and there's also the, what's the other one called? The Orontius, I have that here, the Orontius-Phineus map. So let's pull up the Orontius-Phineus map. Did I put that one in there for you?
Yeah, I hope so. Let's see.
The Orontius map?
Yes, got it. What's up?
Yeah, basically this is from the year 1532, copied from a previous map, and it shows to what looks like the continent of Antarctica without the ice sheet, right? So if we were to look at this now from a satellite, we would see a very different outline of what the continent looks like, because all of the ice over top of it. But this map here, if we were to take away that ice and look at this map here, it would appear very similar to what it looks like now. So somehow, 1,500 years ago, some ancient Orontius Phineas map maker was able to determine exactly what Antarctica looks like somehow. And no one's really sure how that is. And so this is more evidence, especially without the ice cap. So this is more evidence that at one time, Antarctica was habitable. You could grow things there, and it wasn't this very low temperature system that it is today. There's also the Piri-Reis map, if we can pull that up. So this is another one. So in 1929, Gustav Diemesen, who was a German theologian, was working in Istanbul, and he was cataloging antique items, and he found this gazelle skin parchment. And what was on it is this map we're looking at here. So it had a map drawn on it, and Diemesen was amazed to see that it appeared to be the outline of South America with something that looks like, or has been interpreted as, Antarctica at the bottom. And this map was also made in 1513 by Turkish cartographer Hagi Ahmed Muhiddin Piri, so known as the Piri-Reis map. So again, here, we got a couple of maps here that are showing the shape of Antarctica under the ice 500 years before anyone knew what that looked like. And so the thought here is that these are maps copied from previous times that show the continent when it was much warmer. So the idea that these Martians, as the CIA remote viewer said, the idea that these Martians came from Mars, landed on Antarctica, and set up this base is based on this, that it would have been a good idea to do that. Anyway, so they come there, they crash land, they make a civilization, and now we get to the Nazis. So I know you have some stuff on this, but I'll just go into it quickly and stop me if I start spoiling your work. But basically, the Nazis go to Antarctica, and they didn't go up on top, so they didn't go on top of the ice, but they went under the ice sheet. So do you have the... Actually, let me just... Why don't you go into it, and I'll jump in with my stuff if I have anything you don't have.
Okay, a couple comments here we're going to catch up on. So guys, we're talking about Antarctica, we're talking about the weird stuff, talking about the aliens, we're talking about maybe an exodus from Mars maybe 1 million years ago through the remote viewer, which is actually a government document. Am I right there, Frank? Was that an actual government document?
Yeah, that's on the CIA website. You can read the transcript of that remote viewing experience.
There you go. So, which describes some kind of cataclysm on Mars 1 million years ago, describes aliens fleeing and actually coming to Antarctica on Earth. So, kind of fits the narrative of the Zachariah Sitchin and the Anunnaki and that whole thing. So, okay, so just to catch you up on what we're talking about if you just showed up. And then so Mike says yes, or Todd says yes, Mike, you're a noob. Thanks Todd, you're the best. Kelly says ancient Sumerian text says Mars was a way station. The way station. They lived and mined there. And yeah, so that would jive with what we're talking about here. John says y'all cool AF. Thank you. You too, John. You're the best. Todd's correcting his typo. You're the best, Todd. You're the best, buddy. And then he says Marduk ran the way station on Mars, which yeah, we talked about a little bit in I don't know if we touched on that in the Anunnaki episode with Zachariah Sitchin, but yeah, tons of good stuff there. And then Todd says there's pyramids on Antarctica too, which we're gonna get there. We've got some of that too. So okay, so the Nazis. Let's do the pyramids actually. Let's do the pyramids before we get to the Nazis real quick.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah, and I think you're right. Let me just jump in there to summarize again. So the idea here, and like take it loosely, the idea is that some kind of alien civilization was on Mars, and that they left and they settled in on Antarctica, and they built this advanced technology. And the reason for that is because it was habitable, it was warmer, and now, you know, that's where we lead in. That's the basis of understanding for the story about why there's pyramids there, why the Nazis went there, and all this stuff. Anyway, yeah, let's get into these pyramids.
Okay, so now Mo says there was supposedly a giant volcano that caused an evacuation of their species. Is that what that was on Mars? Okay, yeah, he corrects, yeah, on Mars. So yeah, that could be right. That could be the actual cataclysm that's happening here. Okay, so let me pull up these images here. I've got some images, some Google images. Oh crap, I didn't pull up my own images. Okay, give me 1 sec. I'm gonna get you these really sweet images that I didn't get earlier. There we go. There we go. All right. 1 sec. 1 sec. All right. Okay. So this is actually, these are taken from Google Earth. So this is from a satellite. You can look this stuff up yourself. But here we go. here's what pyramids look like in Antarctica. So you see snow. It looks like, oddly enough, there's maybe 3 of them. Did you see this one, Frank? So it looks like there's one big one in the middle.
That's pretty interesting because, again, remember there was 3 pyramids on the Giza Plateau. There was those 3 what appeared to look like pyramids on Mars. In the Mars episode, we covered that. And now here again, we see these kind of 3 pyramids in a row. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure these line up to the exact Orion Belt type of thing that the ones in Giza do, but it's definitely similar enough to make you go, So again, Google Images, guys. You can go check this out if you want to follow up and make sure we're not making this up. We're not totally full of it, we promise you. So what you're looking at is the image from the top, and in the middle there's a gigantic pyramid. There's no other way to parse this. It's a pyramid. It's a straight up pyramid. Half of it's covered in snow, but you can make out the shape. It's got the four sides. It's got the pyramid shape, sticking straight up. And then you've got a smaller one to its left that looks like it's partially buried in snow, so you can't make out the actual pyramid shape. So that's, okay, debatable, fine. On the top right of this image, it looks to be another pyramid, like maybe a medium size, in between the size of the 2, the larger one and the smallest one. And again, covered in snow, probably like halfway, but you can still make out the shape of a pyramid. So it's a little bit interesting here that we're talking about something that didn't have snow on it. How many years ago? What was that? A million years ago? Was it?
Yeah, it depends on your interpretation, but either 15,000 years ago up to 1 million years ago, the continent was apparently habitable and it had, warm spots on it.
Right. So if that was the case and it was abandoned since, or they moved underground since, which we're going to get to in a minute here, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at possibly pyramids. Was this a thing that happened before the pyramids at Giza? That maybe the people from here moved over to the Middle East? I think that's what the Sumerian text would say. We got our experts in the chat here that can correct me if I'm wrong. Kelly and Todd, they're all up on this stuff. But it seems like this is highly suspicious. Yes, we have actual pyramids from a Google satellite. You can see. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, and you can actually see in this image it says copyright whatever 2014 Google. Like this is literally from a satellite on Google Earth. So. Yeah, you tell me.
Now, here's what I've always wondered about this is why has no one taken the time to, ski up to this place and actually just eyeball it, get up nice and close and take a look at it. Take a look at the edges, see if it's made of blocks, measure the base and climb up it and see, right? Why has no one taken the time to do this? And I think this is the genesis of the show, is I think we were talking about this one night. As far as I can tell, no one has actually gone to this site and eyeballed it, taken a good look at it. They certainly look like pyramids. I would believe they're pyramids, but I'm not sure why any of these researchers or anything who are currently stationed on Antarctica, why haven't they just gone at it and looked at it? It seems like such a simple thing to do. Right,
yeah. It could be that it's a remote thing. I don't know exactly where it's at in comparison to the the settlements up there, because there are some like academia settlements up there where they do partially through the year. They'll do some scientific experiments and whatnot, and obviously this stuff doesn't get out because it's super hush hush. Like we're not surprised about any of that, but there are people that live there for part of the year, so you wonder. I was reading that I think the partial population through like maybe half of the year is about 1,000 people. So that seems like somebody would want to go check this out, maybe take some pictures, just like you said, measure the base, like actually see if this is legit, maybe see if they can clear some snow and maybe, I don't know, like verify this as a hoax, I don't know, or not. It just doesn't make sense. It seems like
it seems like they could go up to it, and if it's made of blocks, well then it's not a mountain. Right? That's the simple test is, are there blocks or is it just a stone mountain? Like it'd take 2 seconds of your time.
Exactly, yeah. A couple more comments. Ian says, I'm back. Welcome back, buddy. Kelly says, all continents have pyramids on them. Yeah, we were going to do that too. When we did the pyramid episode, we talked about just Giza, or if we should do all the pyramids of the world, because there's so many, and it was just too much, so we just cut it down to Giza. So maybe we'll do another one where we just do only pyramids from all over. But there's tons of good stuff here. So, and then Todd says, because the Anunnaki were global when they were here. Okay, cool. Christopher says, this is all that intrigues me about the Ancient Aliens series, and you guys just taught me the ones on Antarctica. So interesting. Thank you for that. That's why we're doing this, man. We're doing this to ask those questions. Hope you learned something, and hope you got some more questions of your own. So here we go. Appreciate that. Todd says, I'm pretty sure Atlantis is just hold on, the pre-civilization that were the Anunnaki founded before they were wiped out. Yeah, it could be. Atlantis, that's a whole other show. John says, the UFO is shaped as a pyramid with 3 lights and one in the middle. They fly without wings, giant size like a mothership. Yep. If you got pictures of that, we'd love to see it. If you've seen one, call in and tell us about it. 702-957-1037. We are watching the lines here, so if you want to call in, be on the show, we'd love that. That's why we're doing this. That's the entire point of why we do the show, because we want to hear what you guys think. So call in, let us know what's up, and tell us what you think about this, or if you've seen something crazy, or you have some IDs that can contribute to the show. That would be fantastic. So we have the phone number and Discord, and they both work. So, and then Mo says, okay, let's see. Todd says, because Antarctica is guarded by global militaries. Yep, that's what I've heard. Mo agrees. True, Todd. And then Chris says they had to have extraterrestrial help building those, and long ago. And I heard it would be hard for us to build pyramids today with cranes. Learning is awesome. Yeah, right. If you got answers, man, we want to know. The Mo says, fly a white drone and take some pics and vids. Yeah, right, exactly. We have the technology now. You don't even have to take a damn snowmobile over there. Like, why couldn't you get some kind of satellite drone that would connect to a satellite in places that don't get coverage, and literally just go fly over there, take the damn pictures, or Fred says, or lidar. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we have the damn technology. Why are we not looking at this stuff again?
Yeah, take one of these Predator drones that are blowing up brown people in the Middle East, and ship it down to Antarctica, put it up there, and fly it over and take some pictures. It's pretty simple.
Pretty simple, exactly. Instead of blowing things up, let's take pictures of things. I think that's the problem, right? Does not compute. Okay, so and then Kelly, almost done here. Kelly says the Anunnaki split the world into 4 zones, 3 for human and 1 just for them. Fantastic. Again, we'll have to revisit that at some point because there's a ton there. John says, I believe the pyramid are real for the aliens flying in UFOs, so people copy what they see. Yeah, it could be. We're about to get there. We're about to get to some aliens and etc. in Antarctica. So anyway, I want to bring these up and talk about some of the stuff that you see that, this is an actual Google satellite image, and what's the problem here? So I'll read the blurb real quick, and then we'll move on. So in 2016, a striking screenshot from Google Earth showed a set of near-perfect pyramids partially covered by snow. Immediately, speculation was rife. How were they created? How old were they? Why had they been kept secret until now? At some point, someone claimed they were 100 million years old, and that's exactly what we're talking about here, right? That the story makes sense with what we've talked about. We got the government documents about the remote seer on Mars, the cataclysm, all that stuff. It's 100 million years sounds right. Okay, so anyway, so the quote was assumed to be factual and repeated across the internet unchecked. Okay, is what these guys are saying. I don't know. What we just talked about seems pretty checked. It seems pretty plausible that this is the thing. So, of course, this is a debunker website. This is reported as a newshub.co.nz, so New Zealand. So if you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so he had humans with the technology to build pyramids really been in Antarctica 100 million years ago. Okay, I'm going to just stop reading this right now. But you get the point, right? So it's easy to just say, LOL, this is silly. These are just hills. Right? Until you look and there's some in China, and you look and there's some in North America, and you look and they're everywhere. They're all over the world. So I don't know. It's one thing to just discount this as an anomalous thing and say, nah, nothing to see here. Except they're everywhere. Just like Kelly said earlier, they're all over the world. So it's not just here. It's not just one spot that we're like, no, we're kind of seeing something. And remember, Frank, we did that one show where we talked about that satellite that had crashed. Was it on Mars or the moon? And they had like a pile of dirt over it, and they were able to determine that it. Yeah. Anyway, so they were determined. Go ahead.
Sorry. That was the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and they took a picture of like basically a mound, and they said, "Oh, that's where the space missions landed, right?" But it looked like just a mound. It didn't look like anything. And now here we see a picture of what looks perfectly like a pyramid, but that's not good enough. You know, a mound is good enough for NASA, but this thing looks like a pyramid isn't good enough for us.
Right. It looks like an actual pyramid. Okay. Anyway, so we got Todd says the ancient builder race, and Kelly says and on Mars. So yeah, I mean, it seems like that's where the stuff has come from, right? It's definitely a possibility, and for us to completely ignore it, I think, is stupid and silly. But yeah, so there's the pyramids on Mars, or I'm sorry, on Antarctica. You guys got Mars on my mind. Okay, but yeah, so there we go. So we were talking about the Nazis and Antarctica, right? We were talking about kind of getting into that, and then we're going to do Operation Highjump. Hoffa just showed up. He says, what am I seeing? You're looking at pyramids, Antarctica. These are actual Google images. If you want to, catch it up, well, you can catch it up on the replay. So we'll archive this afterward. But yeah, so these are images, Google images of a satellite passing over and seeing actual pyramids in Antarctica. So all kinds of wacky stuff to look into. That's what we're looking at. But yeah, we're going to get into the underground, under the glacier, and we're going to get into Nazis and aliens in just a sec here. So a couple more comments and we'll do that. Mo says, just imagine how many undiscovered pyramids there are under our oceans. We have some more of space than our deepest oceans. Yeah. Oh, so we have seen, sorry, I read that wrong. We have seen more of space than our deepest oceans, and that's true. That's completely true. Well, near space anyway. And Todd says agreed. Hoff says thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching. Okay, so we're going to do Operation Highjump. Nazis. Did you want to kick in with the Nazis real quick before I do Highjump?
Yeah, let's take a step back. So the idea is that Nazis went to Antarctica, and again, they didn't go on top, they went under. So I think we have an image here of some of these plans or directions for the Nazis to take their submarines underneath the ice sheet and into some of these caverns that apparently exist under the ice sheet. So do we have that one? But basically, it's all in German. I'll try to describe it. It's a map of Antarctica. They show the ice sheets on top. They show the kind of the rock continent underneath. And there's a bunch of tunnels that kind of show leading in underneath. So this is the idea, is that the Nazis would take their submarines up here. They would dive down. They'd go under the ice, through these tunnels, and into some of these caverns that exist under the continent. And apparently they went there and they built a base, or that's the story as it goes. Do you see this image here?
Yes. So we're looking at, it looks like a map. It's got on the bottom, it's got like Asgard and Liberia are the titles. And then it looks like underneath on the top right here, it looks like maybe a spot you can get into, like a circle in the bottom of the Earth. So it's like a like a break in the landmass, I guess. That, like, just like you said, looks like the submarines can actually get underneath, and then the bottom here is like a cross section of that where you can see the depth necessary to get into that spot. But it's all in German. It's got the Nazi insignia, and this certainly looks like it's a if it's not a fake, it's a pretty good fake, let's say.
You know, another kind of piece of backup evidence for this from the mainstream news is I found an article here, if you could pull that up real quick, and then we'll get into some of your stuff, is researchers find secret warm oasis beneath Antarctica's ice that could be home to undiscovered species. So if we have that up, basically, they've gone down there, and they've seen that although average year-long temperatures on Ross Island hover around minus 17 degrees, the temperature in the cave systems beneath the glaciers, so again, leading evidence towards this Nazi base, the temperature in these cave systems can reach 25 degrees. So the guy goes on here to say, you could wear a t-shirt in there and it'd be pretty comfortable. There's light near the cave mouths, and the light filters deeper into some caves when the overlying ice is thin. So again, it's not just this frozen continent. There are areas in there, again, probably due to that volcanic activity we talked about before, where life could thrive because it's 25 degrees Celsius. That's pretty warm, right? So this idea that the Nazis went there and went under the ice sheet, couple it with this here, that we have warm caves under the ice sheet, and that kind of lends some credence to that theory, or at least I think so anyway.
Yeah, that it's habitable under there. It's not just another like freezing ice cube. It would be completely harsh conditions, and you'd have to have some kind of a gigantic infrastructure to keep people alive. It's yeah, it's a thing. It seems like it could be a thing, right? You got some volcanic activity that warms it up. That makes it all the more plausible. A couple more comments. We got Todd says Agartha and Inner Earth civilization. I think that's what we're talking about here. About to get there, except not quite there. And then Hoffa says, my cousin from Brazil was visited by 2 different species of alien. Perfect. Call in and tell us, man. We'll take your call. Call in, let us know. If you didn't see it and you just heard what your cousin said, we want to hear it, man. 702-957-1037. Call in, let us know. He says on one night, it was a tall gray one and a small green. So, yeah, perfect. That's what we're talking about here. We're about to get to aliens in 1 sec. If you want to cut in and talk us, tell us about that. That'd be perfect. He says true story, and she was younger too. Perfect. Yeah, fantastic. And then Todd wants to know if that's Kim Kardashian on the on the right side. Nope. I'm scrolling down. Nope. Melania Trump on the right. That's not Kim Kardashian. Nice try. This is real news. This isn't fake news. And then Hoffa says she was very scared. Mo says, I believe you. Yeah, I didn't say we don't believe you. Call us in. Let us know, man. We want to hear about it. We want to hear it. Yeah. Invite her. Have her come in. Have her call in. An eyewitness account would be even better. But if you can't get her, then call us yourself, man, because we all want to hear about that. If you have an actual eyewitness in the family, then that's fantastic. Call in. Let us know. 702-957-1037. But yeah, if you can get her, that would be awesome too. Okay, so here we go. We've got subglacial caves that are warm. They're actually habitable, at least temperature-wise, in underneath Antarctica. So, anything else there, Frank?
Yes. So the idea here is that the Nazis entered these caves and started building a base, and they ran into aliens down there. So lizard people, amongst others. Apparently, there's inner Earth beings, the Shambhala, and all sorts of things like that. And they started working together with these aliens to build flying saucers. Now, I don't know how much you go into do you go in a lot into the flying saucers and the Nazis?
No, I don't get into the battle. There's so much here before that, but I'll mention that briefly.
Way too much.
Yeah.
Anyway, we do have a video here. So apparently there is a storied history of the Nazis working on flying saucers. There's all sorts of schematics floating around the internet, different specifications on working on these things, but apparently they were working on them and they got some working. So apparently, I think we have a video here if you want to pop that up really quick. But apparently this is the product of the Nazis and these aliens working together in Antarctica, is these flying saucers. So this is a test flight video from 1939. If we can play that, that'd be great.
Playing. You got it. So you see like a in the background here. It's like a foggy video, but something disc shaped, like very classic UFO size and shape, lifts up like directly straight up. It kind of hovers, moves a bit to the right of the camera, like you're watching it. It moves to your right as you're viewing, and there's no propulsion evidence, and it just seems like it's basically defying gravity. It looks like it's maybe spinning. I see like the things underneath it, like turning, like maybe like a landing gear, like something's gonna, like its feet, landing feet, like it's maybe. That's how I can tell it might be spinning, because I see those things maybe rotating, but it definitely lifts up without propulsion. It moves and then it lands, and there you go. There's the video. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so there's a ton of schematics and German documents you can find about UFOs. So apparently they were building these flying saucers. The Nazis were working on them, and they were working on them in concert with these aliens who lived in Antarctica, or that's how the theory goes. And apparently there were also like a ton of spies that were, bringing back information, saying this to the Allied governments, saying that the Nazis were working on flying saucers. But because the Germans were so famous for their disinformation, those spies and the ideas they were bringing back, they kind of got pushed under the rug a bit because Germany was so good at spreading false information. So they kind of thought these UFOs and flying saucers were the same thing. Anyway, so they're down there in Antarctica working on these flying saucers with the aliens. They've got a base down there. Then the war ends. It's all over. Then what happens? I think that's where you pick up.
Yeah, so actually as the World War II was ending, the Nazis were moving items and people to Antarctica, and they were apparently hiding things. And there's some speculation as to where this stuff went and what it was and what they were moving there and all those kinds of things. And I know there's been a ton of stolen art and stolen ancient treasures that the Nazis kind of looted Europe when they took over. And that stuff has completely vanished. Like, there's a ton of priceless artifacts that have just vanished into time. And some of the speculation is that the Nazis have actually taken them to South America. And, or not South, sorry, partially South America, but beyond that, Antarctica. So, it's interesting because if they were doing that before the war, they saw the writing on the wall, let's say, and they knew they were about to lose. Russia had turned on them. They had the war on two fronts. The Americans were coming. They started beating them down and landed on Normandy and all that stuff. So they started moving things out. They started escaping. They a lot of their treasures they tried to pull out to continue the Reich, to continue from the Third Reich to the Fourth Reich. And so a lot of this was actually taken to Antarctica, and that's a lot of the speculation here. But okay, so then we have so after that, so after the war ends, so we had the rest of the world has business in Europe. We have to go over there. We have to take care of business. We have to smash all the concentration camps and free all the prisoners and save who we can. There's all kinds of stuff going on, right? So the world's busy, and while the world's busy, the Nazis are retreating, and they're doing this. So after the war now, we're talking 1947. We have what's called Operation Highjump. Okay, and there's a gentleman named in 1947 actually, the Secretary of the Navy was James Forrestal. Okay, and he sent a naval task force to Antarctica, including Admiral Nimitz. Everybody's heard of that guy. Admiral Cruzen and Admiral Byrd. Now, Admiral Byrd is the interesting guy here because he'd gone to the Arctic Circle on the North Pole. And he'd flown through what he actually claims later to be some kind of underground secondary world, like kind of underneath everything. Like he flew into it, and he met extraterrestrials there. Did you hear about this one, Frank?
Yeah, that's Admiral Byrd's Lost Diary, where, yeah, exactly. He describes kind of meeting up with some aliens, descending into like a green area where there was ice on all sides, and like talking with these aliens, and then later coming back to civilization. So like there's just so much to these topics, but yeah, this guy's the key character here.
Yeah, definitely. So again, we got some big names. We got the Secretary of the Navy, James Forrestal, who actually ended up in the near future after this. He ended up in a suspicious death in a hospital, I think pushed out a window. I think that's the detail. And we have, what's his name? We have Admiral Byrd, which has already claimed at this point that he's flown in the North Pole and met with extraterrestrials and some other things. So it's definitely makes you go, all right. So they sent him there because he was a polar explorer, and he was going to be pretty much the perfect guy to kind of explore the South Pole instead of the North Pole because they'd already done that, been there, done that type of thing, and he'd go back. So after this, it wasn't just a one-time thing. There were several visits after. But so I'm going to read this down real quick. So they sent this task force, okay, and it was included different countries. So it was not only the United States. There was Great Britain. There were some Canadians involved. There were some people from New Zealand, I believe. And then it was touted to be an expedition to find coal deposits and other valuable resources, but they were trying to find the underground base of the Nazis, and it's called, this is German, excuse my terrible German, New Schwabenland. Okay, so I guess it's just New German, basically, New Germany maybe. That's my terrible translation. But so the Nazis had done a very detailed study of the Antarctica and were alleged to have built an underground base there. Okay, so the Nazis embraced the occult. We all know that. Embracing Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that was based in some truth. At least that the Nazis were looking for all kinds of wacky stuff to, they were into the occult. They were into secret powers that people didn't believe in because they thought it could give them some sort of advantage. So I guess they were the original open-minded murderous bastards. But there you go. There you have it. The what would you call it? What would you call them there? It's a better way. It's a better term, Frank. They were the original spiritual.
Yeah, I think
murderous bastards.
I think they were just trying to get power in any way they could, right? And that was one avenue to it, is going into this occult stuff, going into these, like they were open-minded. Let's put it that way.
There you go. But still, murderous bastards. I don't want to actually be one of those guys that says anything positive about a Nazi and then gets called a Nazi. Okay, everybody relax. They're still murderous bastards. Okay. All right, so a couple more comments real quick before we do this. Kelly and Todd are battling about De Glock, the bell, which is the what you call it? It was a secret project in Nazi land where they were trying to build that UFO that we saw, that disc-shaped thing that kind of flew up without any kind of propulsion. So yeah, so I think that's what it was called. And then Mo says, after I became a Freemason, I tend to stare at the night skies more and wonder why we are here. I feel more comfortable talking to the moon and stars about why we're here than an actual person. I know that's random. It's pretty random, but if you're a Freemason, man, you got secrets, call us. We want to know. You put it on the show, please. Or even if you want to allude to some secrets, we'd love that. Anyway, so okay, so the operation included the largest carrier at the time. It was named the Philippine Sea, 2 seaplane carriers, the Pine Island and the Curtich, 2 destroyers, the Brownson and Henderson, 2 escort ships, the Yankee and the Merrick, 2 fueling ships, Canister and Capican, and a submarine named the Sennet, S-E-N-N-E-T. So now these were the actual official objectives according to the U.S. Navy and their report of the operation, which of course is, what they release is never what's actually happening because they don't want to telegraph their hand if it's like a military operation, and if it's something they want to keep secret after the fact, they're not going to tell you what they're doing beforehand because of obvious reasons. So anyway, here's what they're actually were saying they were going to do. This was the actual Navy's report of the operation. They were, quote, training personnel and testing equipment in frigid conditions. Okay. They were consolidating and extending United States sovereignty over the largest practical area of the Antarctic continent. This was publicly denied as a goal even before the expedition ended. So they announced that before, and then even halfway through they denied that. And then determining the feasibility of establishing, maintaining, and utilizing bases in the Antarctic and investigating possible base sites. Okay, so now they're saying maybe they want to make a base there and they're investigating the possibility, but that reads 2 ways, right? Like maybe investigating that there are already bases there. Seems pretty ambiguous.
This was a pretty big expedition, sort of to cut in there for what their stated goals were. If they were just there to explore, that's one thing. But why did they bring all these ships, all these helicopters, these planes, and like I think it was 4,700 military personnel? It wasn't just like a scouting mission. They were up to something for sure.
Right, exactly. And then, so there's more here. And obviously they're, okay, so amplifying existing stores of knowledge of hydrographic, geographic, geological, meteorological, and electromagnetic propagation conditions in the area. So they're saying that they sent all these military ships, all of these soldiers, these admirals, like high-ranking admirals in the Navy, to actually go to do a scientific expedition here. Come on, like this is spin. Kelly has a comment that fits perfectly. He says, very true, because if the Navy thought that Admiral Byrd was crazy, he would have been kicked out and not sent to the South Pole with a fleet of ships. And I think that says it all. That's a perfect comment. Thanks, Kelly. It's like, why would you do that? This is there's something more here. They know he's got some experience with some pretty crazy things, right? So why would they give him control of all these ships? This is a lot of ships. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of taxpayer dollars to just give to some dude you think is a kook, right? And he was one of the top 3 in the expedition here. So perfect comment, perfect timing, Kelly. Thank you, and that's exactly right. And then Hoffa says, what happened to the plane that went missing? I think there's more than that. There's I don't even think I have enough to get into the battle, but there was apparently a fight up there. Okay, and then okay, we'll get to Todd's comment here because it's long in a sec. Oh, okay. So all right. So that's what the actual Navy described as they were going there to do these things. Okay, they were maybe looking for bases. They were maybe trying to find some geological, meteorological information, which makes no sense whatsoever. But okay, we'll give that to you. And then moving on here. So, what else we got? Anything else there with Operation Highjump? I got a ton more after it, but let's see.
Yeah, we can. Do you have anything on them leaving? Right, because apparently they got their nose bloodied and they had to turn around and leave.
Yeah, I got a ton of
I
stuff
can
here.
go into that a bit.
Okay, actually, yeah. So I've got a 2006 Russian documentary actually that was recently translated into English and was revealing information about the U.S. expedition in Antarctica 46, 47. So it was according to this Russian document, which is apparently exposing whatever they're trying to expose to make us seem silly. They say it was originally scheduled as a 6-month operation, but as Frank just said, they ended up having to leave early because let's see. Hold on, let me read this. It's long. Okay, so this is a Russian document again, and they're exposing what happened there. So the United States Navy Antarctic Development Program, which is what it was initially called, not Operation Highjump, and then they gave it the operational name Highjump. The naval component of Operation Highjump was known as Task Force 68 and comprised of 4,700 military personnel, 1 aircraft carrier. Okay, we covered all this. Headed by famed polar explorer Admiral Richard Byrd, who had been ordered to consolidate and extend American sovereignty over the largest practical area of the Antarctic continent. Okay, so Byrd's expedition ended only after 8 weeks, with many fatalities, according to initial news reports based on interviews with crew members who spoke to the press while passing through Chilean ports. Rather than deny the heavy casualty reports, Admiral Byrd revealed in a press interview that Task Force 68 had encountered a new enemy that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Did we catch that?
Pole to pole, incredible speed.
So he's talking about some kind of probable extraterrestrial craft, yes?
Yeah, or one of these Nazi-engineered UFOs from their base down there. Who knows?
It seems that the guy, again, Kelly's comment that they trusted with all of this money and time and investment to go down there and lead this expedition, wouldn't be saying half-cocked things, right? It just doesn't make sense. So, okay, and that was one of his statements. Could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. And, again, knowing that the guy's been an explorer for the Arctic, the Antarctic. At this point now, he's kind of seen it all. He's seen the world. I don't know. It's tough to discount that. And the smear campaign is still in full effect on this guy. So his statements, Admiral Byrd's statements, were published in the Chilean press, but never publicly confirmed by U.S. authorities. Indeed, Byrd did not speak again to the press about Operation Highjump, leaving it for researchers to speculate for decades over what really happened and why Byrd was silenced. After the Soviet collapse in '91, the KGB released previously classified files that cast light on the mysterious Byrd-led naval expedition to Antarctica. A 2006 Russian documentary recently translated made public for the first time a 1947 secret Soviet intelligence report commissioned by Joseph Stalin of Task 68's mission to Antarctica. Now, in this intelligence report, gathered from Soviet spies embedded in the U.S., revealed that the U.S. Navy had sent a military expedition to find and destroy a hidden Nazi base. On the way, they encountered a mysterious UFO force that attacked the military expedition, destroying several ships and a significant number of planes. Indeed, Operation Highjump had suffered many casualties, as stated in the initial reports from Chile. Whether there's a possibility the report resulted from U.S. disinformation fed to a known Soviet mole, the more likely explanation here, I would think, is that the report exposes the first known historical incident involving a battle between U.S. naval forces and an unknown UFO force stationed near Antarctica. So, yeah, that's a mouthful right there. So they go on this expedition, and the Soviets actually say that their classified files and their spies knew that this is what was happening. They were going after the final Nazi base that was in Antarctica, okay, which we've determined is possibly under the glacier, under the actual landmass itself, because it's not just ice there. There's an actual landmass, right? So they went there to squash this, and they were attacked by some sort of UFOs. So
yeah, I got a quote here from a witness and crew member of the expedition. If you want me to read that.
Yeah, let me do Todd's comment here, the giant one here. He says, I heard a different story about the so-called concentration camp, that they were never burned, that it was a huge sweatshop, and most of them died from disease. Because in reality and history, the swastika is a symbol of for peace all over the world, as they would aliens help the Nazis if they were really so terrible, and then tell Admiral Byrd he should disarm and be peaceful, food for thought. Maybe. Again, you're crossing some lines with me. I don't want to talk about Nazis being good guys, even because their symbol's a good guy. But you're right. Why would the aliens help them if they're a bunch of gigantic a-holes? But yeah. So anyway, something to think about for sure. And then John says nanobots and UFO. Yeah, definitely, right? So it seems like there's a fight. There's a UFO fight. And Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, so this pilot, John Sayerson, who was apparently part of this expedition down there, this is what he says happened. The things popped out of the water like they were being chased by the devil and flew at such high speeds between the masts that the antenna between the wind eddy rippled. So these antennae rippling in the air because these things are moving so quick. Then he says, some airplanes that were able to get into the air off the Casablanca were hit moments later by unfamiliar blasts that came from the flying saucers and crashed next to the ships. I was on the deck of the Casablanca at the time and was totally taken aback. These things did not make a single sound as they flew between our ships and spit deadly fire. Suddenly, the torpedo boat destroyer Maddock, which was about 12 cable lengths, so that's less than 2 miles apparently, away from us, went up in flames and began to sink. Rescue boats from the other ships were sent despite the danger. The nightmare lasted about 20 minutes. When the flying saucers dove under the water again, we finally began to count our losses. They were appalling. So that's apparently what happened in this Operation Highjump and why they had to turn around and leave.
I think nose blooding might be an understatement there, right? Like they got owned, and if they stayed, they would have it would have been total casualties. So they had to leave. It was supposed to be 6 months, and after a few weeks, they had to take off because so was it reverse alien technology from Nazis? Was it Nazis aligned with aliens? Was it? I don't know. What was it? I think that's what we're here to ask, right? That's one of the questions, one of the big questions.
It's hard to tell. It definitely does seem like something happened. And you're right. These could be Nazi UFOs defending their base. They could be alien UFOs defending the alien base. They could be anything, really. But what we do know for sure is they definitely had to turn around. They definitely took a lot of damage and took a lot of loss of life. And they didn't return again, I think, until later, which was Operation Deep Freeze. But they definitely couldn't stay. They had to kind of flee with the tails tucked between their legs.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a picture up here of it. It's an artist depiction, but it kind of gives you an idea of what these Nazi, if they were actual Nazi UFOs, what they might look like. The Die Glock, and something like that. So it's got that little iron cross on it, and definitely looks pretty scary. It's got some not earthly thing going on with it. So yeah, interesting stuff. This is not real again. This is not a archive photo. This is like an artist depiction of what this might actually be if the fight had gone down, like it's been reported or speculated, let's say. So yeah, what do you guys think? This is pretty scary stuff. That possibly there's an alien presence in the South Pole. That's pretty scary to me to think that might be possible. A couple more comments here. We got Kelly says the Russians were listening to that U.S. fleet and heard all what happened, that we lost a ship and aircraft, and they thought it was weird because the U.S. did a full retreat, and we have never done a full retreat. That could be exactly right. And so the Russian report kind of corroborates that thought that like why would they take off, and if they're like everybody was into everybody's communications then, just like they are now. We say the Russians are hacking our election or whatever, or hacking our this, hacking our that, our power grid, on and on. I mean, they were doing it then too. We were doing it to them too, so, and we still are currently. It kind of makes me wonder what they're saying in Russia about us, about what kind of stuff we're hacking on their end, like what kind of propaganda. But because I'm sure we're in the middle of their stuff. I mean, why wouldn't we be? Like the technology's there. We're like the technology leader, and so why would we not be in the middle of their stuff? So anyway, just a thought. Okay, so yeah, all right. So there's Highjump, and they got attacked. There's a ton here. I've got so much here. I got a clip. Hold on. I got Linda Moulton Howe. What'd she say? Here we go. Here's some Linda Moulton Howe corroboration. A lot of us know her. She's famous in the paranormal UFO world. She did a lot of early research on crop circles and whatnot. So this is a good clip. So I'm going to play this. This kind of fills in some of the blanks we're talking about here.
It was a year and a half ago in January 2015. I received an email from a retired 60-year-old U.S. Navy petty officer, first-class flight engineer. He asked me to only call him Brian to protect him because he works in an aerospace company today. He entered the U.S. Navy in 1977 and retired 20 years later in 1997 from the military. He and his C-130 crew encountered high strangeness in Antarctica from 1995 to 1996. Several times, they all saw rapidly moving silver disks over the trans-Antarctic mountains. Brian and his crew also saw a huge football field-sized hole in the ice, only about 5 to 10 miles from the geographic South Pole, that was supposed to be a no-fly zone. But during an emergency medevac crisis, to speed up their trip, they flew across that no-fly zone and saw apparently what they were not supposed to see. A huge hole in the ice that looked like it was an entrance to an underground installation. Later at camp near Marie Birdland, some dozen scientists disappeared for 2 weeks. When they reappeared, Brian's flight crew was assigned to pick them up, and all were silent and appeared scared. Brian and his C-130 crew received orders to not talk about the silver discs, or the huge ice hole, or the missing scared scientists. Repeatedly, the crew was sternly told that they did not see what they kept seeing. But Brian was never asked to sign an official non-disclosure agreement. So now that he's retired from the Navy while still working in civilian aerospace, Brian wanted to share what he has seen and experienced with me at Earth Files, because he is convinced that an alien presence is living and working on this planet.
Whoa. That's some heavy stuff. What do you think about
that?
Yeah,
there we go.
There we go. I don't have to say it. She said it.
I don't know why we ignore these people. Like, you know, we have so many whistleblowers and so many people saying things, and they all kind of corroborate each other. But for some reason, we just have this gut instinct to say, they're crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. But, you know, if you start to put the pieces together and really align these people's stories, they kind of add up in most cases. Yeah, they really do.
That certainly seems like it, huh? What do you guys think? We got about 15 minutes left here of the show, so we're talking about Nazis, we're talking about Antarctica, we're talking about aliens, we're talking about pyramids down there, we're talking about underground bases, we're talking about maybe this was like an alien exodus from Mars from 1 million years ago that actually inhabited that point. What do you guys think? Is this insane? Is this cool to talk about? Is this going to get us banned from Facebook? Zuckerberger, we already talked about that guy last one, a couple ones ago. Again, you know, like, what is this stuff? Is this real? Is this legit? Are we full of it? We want to know, man. We want to know, guys. Come on, give us a call, 702-957-1037. We want to know what you think. We're doing this show because we want you guys. We want your input, and we want to know what you think. If you prefer Discord, there's a link in the Facebook stream. Just click that, hop on in, and we'll pull you in the stream. You can talk to Mike and Frank. And so let's break this down. Let's break this down. What are we looking at here?
I had an interesting thought just now, and that's that we're also concerned about global warming nowadays, right? That's the big thing. Global climate change is what they're calling it now. But, you know, we all have to cut our carbon emissions and, you know, do our part for the planet because the ice caps are melting and, you know, everything's going to be ruined, right? That's the narrative. But I wonder if the reason, and this is kind of crazy, but if the reason they're so worried about these ice caps melting is that if the Antarctic ice cap melts, it's going to start revealing things under the ice that maybe they don't want us to see.
Yeah, it could be. So maybe that's a part of the what's that? That would be the New World Order, right? Or was that the Illuminati? Or is that the Deep State? I'm confused, man.
Yeah, I don't know, but they have to protect their base down there. They have to keep it under the ice, so keep it away from prying eyes. And I guess the only way they can do that is by trying to stabilize the temperature, because if it keeps getting warmer, this ice cap's going to melt, and then all of a sudden we're going to see a city over there, and we're going to be like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah, it'll show up on a Google satellite image and be available for everybody to take a look at. Yeah. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think? I think that's a fantastic take there, Frank. If it melts away, maybe that's why global warming is such a bad thing. I don't know. Anthropomorphic climate change. Okay, so we got a couple more here. Kelly says, my opinion is the Anunnaki down there, just as the Lost Book of Enki states. So yeah, it's the Anunnaki, right? They came from Mars. They came from Nibiru, and there they are. And these are the objects they created. So cool. Todd says the triangle is supposedly ours, talking about UFOs. Yeah, the what was it, F23B or something?
T37B, something like that.
Yeah. We'll get into that too. Again, the beauty of this, guys, is there's so many topics we can get into, and every time we bring something up, it literally opens up a whole new show. So we're just we're kind of going with the flow. We're talking about this stuff. We're learning about this stuff, and we want to discuss it with you. Most of all, we've had Todd and Kelly in here who've had a ton of information for us, which is fantastic, which will show up in future shows. So that's what we're talking about. But you don't have to be knowledgeable in this stuff to ask the questions, to learn where we're at right now. To look at these pictures, to look at some of the government statements on what is and what isn't. Like this is what we're doing. This is why we're here. This is what it's all about. So there you go. So John says, then why did our ancestors build pyramids all around the world when they never met each other? Yeah, aliens, right? Like Anunnaki. I think that's what it comes back to. Zane says, George, thanks for showing up, Zane. He says, George Bush is a carbon dioxide breathing, shape-shifting lizard alien who is part of a plot to terraform our planet. Facts. Yes, sir. Obviously. I mean, I don't think anybody here would refute you on that. You got anything to say about that, Frank?
It's an interesting idea, like the dinosaurs, back in those days. I don't think a lot of people know this, but carbon dioxide levels way back then, when the dinosaurs were running around, were multiple times higher than they are now. They were like 1% of the air, right? So maybe, I don't know, maybe if these lizard people came to the planet and they liked that high carbon dioxide atmosphere, we're trying to bring it back. Who knows?
Could be. John says, no, bro, I met one alien. If you met an alien, bro, please call us, 702-957-1037. We want to hear about it. All of us want to hear about it. Kelly says, true. John says he's seen with his own eyes. Call us, John. We want to hear, man. Please tell us the story. Todd says, plus there are reptilians that are native to Earth, so they don't need to terraform Earth. Oh, okay, we're still talking about George Bush. I know they are real as well. I served with them. I just got it like 2 months ago, no lie. Says Kelly. Why don't you call us and tell us about it, Kelly? You know the number, buddy. What you can tell us. I obviously don't want to get you in any trouble. John, he says, what's up, Austin, Texas? No. I don't know what you're saying. Oh, that's where you saw it, I see. And then Todd's asking Kelly some stuff. Close whatever's. Fred says, wow. Okay, we got so many comments. You guys are amazing. Thanks for the comments. We got about 7-10 minutes to wind this down and be done. But what do you guys think? If you want to get on the show, 702-957-1037. We're talking about Antarctica. We're talking about pyramids there. We're talking about possible aliens. We're talking about Nazis. I mean, this is better than an Indiana Jones flick, right? Like, we're talking about some pretty exciting stuff. We're talking about what was the beam? What would you call it? Not
some kind of sound wave shooting out of Antarctica and disrupting hurricanes forming, and it looks legit based on my kind of math that we did on it. So tons of crazy stuff going on down there.
Tons of crazy stuff. And so what do you guys think? Don't make me read all the comments. I can read all the comments, right?
Here's a thought. Let me tell you what I think.
All right.
This is what we need. We need some kind of civilian expedition down to Antarctica. Now, I looked into this a little bit. There's a lot of hearsay on the internet that apparently it's illegal to fly over Antarctica. That's not true. You can actually do it. And they've also said, it's illegal to go there on your own. Like, there's no trips that'll take you there. There's no cruises that'll stop by. But that's also not true. Apparently you can book trips to certain areas. But I really wonder what it would take. Maybe, if we, make some money on the show, we can fund an expedition to Antarctica one day. Would you go down there with me and scope things out, check out these pyramids, because that's what we really need. Is we need some eyes on the ground to take a look at this stuff and give a third opinion on it.
You were damn right. Damn right. I got some pyramids up on the screen here. I want to go and see those. These are artist renditions.
Yeah, and all we would have to do is walk up to the things, take a look at them, and say, okay, is this just a cliff face, or are these blocks that are being cut? Like 5 seconds of time, and you'd know if they're real or if they're fake, right? I wonder how much it would be to fly down to South America there, rent a sailboat or something, and go on, make an expedition, go down to Antarctica and take an eyeball around and see what's there. Couldn't be that expensive.
Yeah, I don't think it could be like life-breaking expensive or anything. But yeah, here we go. Todd says he'd go. John's ready to go. He said, let's go. Yeah. And John says he'll call in the future. Yeah, that's the stuff we want to hear, man. Email us. So also Kelly, email us, troubledmindsradio@gmail.com. And if you guys want to set up a show revolved around that, like we could literally make a show revolved around your story. We'll have you in for 10, 15, 20 minutes or however long you want to be on, and we'll make a show. Like, again, this is why we're doing this, because you guys have experiences, right? Everybody has their own individual experiences that a lot of people won't take seriously. That's why we're here. We want to take this stuff seriously. We want to ask the questions, and we want to say, is this plausible? Is it possible? And, kind of open up that. And if we don't, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like we're reading CNN.
To add on to that, sorry to interrupt. To add on to that a little bit, if you want to get set up with a VPN and a voice changer, call us and tell us. There's free solutions out there, and you don't have to reveal your identity. I know that you're kind of using your names there on Facebook anyway, but you can definitely call in anonymous style if you've got some important info to share.
Yeah, totally. We will not out you. So there's that. So if you want to do some voice changing stuff and call in and talk, we can do that for sure. We can set it up beforehand and do all that. So, yeah, and, this is important stuff. We're not here to get anybody in trouble. We're not here to try and get ourselves rounded up and thrown in jail for talking about top secret stuff that we shouldn't be talking about. But what about the transparency? What about the FOIA requests that they're shutting down? If you guys haven't noticed, in the last 6 months, if you go look at the blackvault.com, and the guy's got like an entire millions of pages of FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act, okay, where the government actually is supposed to hand over the information if you request it. He's been doing this for years. They're literally shutting this guy down. So he cannot get information anymore, because the more he asks, the more they're telling him, no, that's classified. No, that's classified. And so he's been doing it for 20 years and been getting answers. But now suddenly it's drying up. He can't get answers anymore. They won't send him documents. They're making excuses on why they can't. So it's one of those things. Transparency. It's a bitch. You can cover everything up, but then what do you get? You get tinfoil hat guys that are kind of gonna find you out anyway. So here we are.
That's the failure of the media too, right? We rely on the media to serve as this extra arm of government, to give us the transparency, to tell us what's really going on, to dig into these things. But lately, the media has been focused on nonsense, quite frankly, is just things that don't matter. Like, they're more worried about getting clicks and selling their ad time and making money than they are about informing the public of what's going on. So this idea of transparency is kind of going by the wayside, because that's no longer what the media is focused on. But I completely agree with you. The most important thing is transparency. Think about any of these conspiracies, or think about any of these political issues. The one thing that would solve most of them, if not all of them, is just more transparency. Tell us what's going on, give us insight into it, and stop kind of, trying to trick us, trying to make us fight amongst ourselves. And that's the real thing they're doing here. But transparency, that's what we need. That's what the media needs to focus on. And unfortunately, they're not doing it.
Stop lying to us. Let's just bake that down to one term. Let's just stop lying to us. We deserve the right to say where our tax money goes. It shouldn't be some giant secret umbrella where you get to say national security, national security, national security over and over and over again, and then completely lock us out of the conversation and continue to take our money. Come on. A couple more comments here. So Kelly says he's not scared. Fantastic. Mo says, I respect you guys a lot. I'm deaf tuned to the next show. Thank you. Thank you. Ernie asks, how do we know about future shows? I'll tell you right now, Ernie, if you're still here. We do Tuesdays. We do Thursdays. We do Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific time. We stream here live. We stream on Facebook. We stream on YouTube. We stream on Twitch. So if you want to be part of it and you want to set it up so you're part of the show and we can build a show around your story if you've got a good story. Email us. We can do that. We can set it up. One more time, troubledmindsradio@gmail.com, or go to troubledminds.org. That's our website, and you can find all our socials there. It's easy to contact us. We've got an open line. We're here. We are transparent. We're trying to be the complete opposite. If you think we're full of it, we want you to call in and tell us we're full of it. Like, that's the thing. That's the whole point, right? Can you imagine if the FBI had an open line and a live stream every week, 2 times a week, 3 times a week? How amazing would that be? You could call them and ask them questions. That's transparency.
Yeah, that was a little detail about that Black Vault guy, as he was calling in to complain about these requests being like sidetracked and denied, and the guy he was talking to wouldn't even give him the name. Like, the guy on the phone wouldn't tell him his name. So there's absolutely no transparency going on at all, even to the extent that he won't even tell him who he's talking to. Like, things like this are absolutely ridiculous.
Exactly, and that's John Greenwald Jr. at the Black Vault. We're big fans of his. He's been doing FOIA stuff for quite a while. You can find him on Facebook. We're not affiliated. He doesn't know who we are as far as I'm aware, but he does a lot of good work. So if you guys like this type of stuff we're talking about, he does similar stuff, a little bit less, let's say, less provocative, but he's still very, 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 very good. So, yeah, we're writing this down. If you guys want to call in, 702-957-1037, or jump on Discord. Antarctica, what's up? We got pyramids. We got Nazi flying saucers. we got sound waves breaking up hurricanes. What's going on? What's going on? You guys, you want to jump on and talk about it real quick? We'd love it. If not, we're going to wind this down and finish up. But yeah, so if you want to see future shows, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, we're going to do our best to stick to that. We have been. And yeah, so you can hop on and call us then, or set up a show. Email us, contact us, and we'd love to set something up with you guys. So you can ask Todd, you can ask Kelly. They've been on the show for pretty big chunks here and there. So we are nice. We're not going to call you out. We're not going to try and expose you and make you look stupid on the stream or anything like that. So we're going to take it as seriously as you want to take it. So let's do it. Let's do it. I'm excited. I'm excited because that's why we do this show. That was the entire idea when we started this, was to get takes from you guys, hot takes from you guys, great stories that we'd never find otherwise. So if you got them, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm excited about that. So yeah.
Yeah, this show, we're just trying to find the truth, in whatever means it comes. And sometimes that's going to involve talking to people. Sometimes that's going to involve digging into stuff like we've kind of done tonight. And if I could launch myself up in a rocket and go to the moon and take some eyeball photographs of these things up there, I'd definitely do it. Can't do that just yet, unfortunately. But that's what we're about. I think that's what we're going to try to do, is dig into these things in ways that perhaps other people aren't willing to do, to try to find the truth, wherever it is and whatever form it takes.
Yeah, we did have some Clinton Foundation connections tonight to the show that I think we left off for obvious reasons. We don't want to get assassinated just yet. But there were some connections here. There were some connections, right there, Frank? I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, we'll try to remain apolitical for now, though.
No, I'm just saying, Anyway, we're not trying to attack that. Anyway, okay, so we're done. We're done. We appreciate you guys listening. We appreciate you sticking with us. We had a lot of new listeners tonight. We appreciate that too. And our old warriors, we got Todd, we got Kelly, we got Fred. You guys are amazing. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for listening. All that good stuff. You know what to do. If you want to help us out, share. Tell your friends. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, 9 p.m. This is what we do. Sometimes our shows are a little better. Sometimes they're not as good. But hey, we're trying our best all the same. So we appreciate you guys showing up. And yeah, here we go. I'm cueing the outro. So you guys got like a minute and a half if you want to call in and be on the show. But here we go. Outro on the way. You want to do the outro, Frank?
Yeah, sure. Here we are. Troubled Minds back again. And this was, just like all the past episodes, this was the tip of the iceberg. is we try to delve into these topics and we try to ask these questions. But we can only do so much. So we appreciate your help. We appreciate your input. Again, we're back on Tuesday, 9 p.m. for kind of a news fun show, and back on Thursday for another new topic. So tune in. We enjoy having you here.
Absolutely. So here we are. We're ending this. One more time, if you guys want to help, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we are on Google Play, we are on all of the places you should be. You can find us on YouTube, you can find us on Twitch, you can find us here on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter. If you want to find all of those things, go to troubledminds.org. That's our website. And hey, you know, reviews help. People won't find us unless they see let's say a good review. But you know, those types of things help. So if you enjoy the show, you need to let other people know, and we can grow and get bigger and make the show better for everybody. So one more time, thanks for listening. You guys are all amazing. I appreciate all the comments. We had so many I couldn't read them all tonight, but yeah, from our troubled minds to yours. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.